Well, hi everyone. Whoa. Welcome along to Tuesday morning at Refuge in the Three Jewels. This is our first class. Is mine, can you hear me okay? So the class is made up of a number of parts. Our first part we call them preliminaries. This is where we set our motivation and we say a few prayers and we visualize a little bit. Then the actual class will begin. During the class, when we break, so we can ask questions and we will also do a meditation on what we've covered. So let's begin with the first preliminary, which is to make sure that you are comfortable in your seat. So you certainly want to have your back straight and shoulders relaxed. You place your hands wherever they feel comfortable. And here you can close your eyes completely, or you can half close them and get a little bit of light, or you can just leave them natural and have your eyes open. Once you're comfortable, just let your body breathe itself. I was doing this all night while you slept. So the body will find this quite easy. Then feel the body breathing itself. Become aware of that movement the body takes when you inhale and exhale breath. And just relax into the awareness of the body breathing itself. Imagine that the ground beneath you is made up of a starry sapphire light. It's very soft. And all the space above you is filled with rainbows and offerings. And within that space, directly in front of you, appears the Buddha sitting on cushions of lotus, sun, and moon. The Buddha has three robes. He's holding a begging bowl in one of his hands. And he is surrounded by an assembly of other enlightened beings. These include other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and deities. So all these enlightened beings are appearing in the space above you. Meanwhile, you are surrounded by all sentient beings. These are all beings who have a consciousness. And these include your parents, so your mother sitting beside you on the left, your father on the right. You think of all the male people, all the men and boys, put them all on the right-hand side, and all the women, all the females are on the left-hand side. There are also many strangers surrounding you. There are people you know, like the family members. There are also people who've harmed you in the past and who you don't like. So what are you doing in front of beings who are enlightened while being surrounded by all beings who are not enlightened? I think that you wish to lead all the beings who surround you in the safe direction of the Buddha, his teachings, and his community. I think that you have the potential to do this. The most important potential being the fact that you are a human being. You are interested in this path. And wishing to put an end to the causes of suffering. Knowing that there's no difference between yourself and others. who've chosen to help others put an end to their suffering and to develop all their good qualities. And you want to do this pretty quickly because death can approach at any time and take our lives. In this world, things are not quite right. And the world does not exist as it seems to. But we have met a spiritual friend who has led us in the safe direction. And we wish to do the same for others. So to make this practice of leading others in the safe direction as purely as possible, would you imagine yourself as if you were already enlightened? So you're sitting there as clear as a deity. And your body is no longer this body of flesh and blood. You look right through it. You're holding a vajra and bell. These are two instruments symbolizing the wisdom realizing emptiness and the skillful means that come with accomplishing that. And you're also sitting within a sphere of great bliss. And so within this sphere of great bliss, remember you're sitting there as clear as a deity. You say in front of all the Buddhists and the Bodhisattvas, I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. So in response to this prayer of yours, from the heart of each enlightened being, light some nectar stream down. And these dissolve into yourself and all living beings. And the lights and nectars purify negative behaviors, negative karmas, and all obstructions. They also increase your health and lifespan by your virtues and Dharma realizations. So cleansed by wisdom and fortified with love, recollect the four immeasurable thoughts of love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. And then decide to develop these yourself. And then establish all beings as those four immeasurable states. So to affirm this wish of ours, join me in saying, may all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be separated from the happiness that is without suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment for friends, hatred for enemies. So from the heart of each enlightened being, lights and nectar stream down. And these dissolve into yourself and all living beings. And negative karmas and obstructions are purified. And your health and lifespan, along with your virtue and realizations, increase. So from this empowered position, exhale and relax. And from the relaxed state of awareness, invite the field for accumulating merit, which appear. And so we say before them, reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma to living beings. I dedicate my own and others' merits to the great enlightenment. Okay, so we've created some merit and we've purified our body, speech, and mind somewhat. So we don't want to cling to this as being absolutely real and true. So to help us prevent us doing that, we imagine that our body, speech, and mind are all the good that we've created. In fact, everything that normally appears to us dissolves and reappears as a wonderful pure land. And that offers pure land to the field for accumulating merit. And so we say, this ground, anointed with perfumes, strewn with flowers, adorned with mountain area, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha field and offer. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. We've released our offering. The Buddha has accepted. He inspires us with delight. But we look up into the eyes of the Buddha, and under his compassionate gaze, we recollect our wish to give up suffering and its causes. Wish for enlightenment to benefit all beings. And the correct view that realize that phenomena exist in mere name. Acknowledging these 3 principles of the path, we aspire to be fully awakened to benefit others. So from the Buddha above us, a second figure leaves his heart and absorbs into you. And now your form clearly becomes that of the Guru Buddha. Radiating from your heart, life rays strike all sentient beings surrounding you and place them in the state of the Guru Buddha. There's no difference between you and other. You are all Guru Buddhas, fully awakened beings. And from that state, you hear the reverberations of the mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha. Can you join me in reciting it? And you say, Taya Tam Maha Taya Tam Maha Taya Tam Maha Rest the mind in a non-conceptual state. From the state, recognize that the meditation we've done has been one of imagination. With our exercise of imagination, we have imprinted the mind with this possibility that we can awaken for the benefit of all sentient beings. I think that this morning we've done something very useful and valuable. And through these efforts of ours, we will one day achieve enlightenment, and it will be for the benefit of all beings. We will have accomplished the 2 purposes. Now, breathing in through your nostrils, exhale through your open mouth, and in your own time, with your eyes flutter open, move your body, and bring the awareness back into this room. So again, welcome to this first module on Refuge. So we have 8 classes and a review class, as you can see. Our topics will include the causes for seeking refuge, the objects of refuge, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and how you go for refuge, the way of doing, and the different precepts or ethics that we're required to engage in once we've taken refuge. Today's topics are really asking ourselves, well, why do we want to seek refuge? What's the point? There's a medical analogy that's useful to become familiar with. And finally, preparing oneself to take refuge. And we answer this question in two parts. Materials help me prepare the classes from these 5 books. But first, on following the Buddhist footsteps, there's a huge section in there on all the different qualities of the 3 jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Buddhism, that next book, talks about how the refuge is practiced in the Pali tradition, the Chinese tradition, the Sanskrit tradition. So there are different ways of taking refuge. Foundation of Buddhist practice, again, is very much like following the Buddhist footsteps. It's quite a condensed presentation of refuge. The Lamrim has different meditations that you can do. The steps on the path to enlightenment is a very large section that through each of these things I mentioned, the causes of refuge, the objects of refuge, the way you go for refuge, and the precepts. It's very big and very extensive. It covers everything. So I'm going to start off with preparing ourselves to go for refuge. It's sort of like a preliminary to ask, so why take refuge? There's got to be a reason for it. In the material that we usually study called Langri Stages of the Path, they have what they call the preliminary practices. The practices you engage in before you take refuge. These practices are learning to appreciate the life you have as a human being. And there's usually death and impermanence will follow that. Then karmic cause and effect. And then the sufferings of samsara, the faults of living in samsara, the faults of living under the control of karma and delusion. So when you go through each of those, you ask yourself, so, well, okay, what should I do? And the answer is, that's when you take refuge. So in other traditions, you see there's basically 4 thoughts. They're called the 4 thoughts that turn the mind towards the Dharma. Also known as the 4 thoughts that turn the mind to taking refuge, because Dharma is the source of refuge. So here I've shown you here these 4 thoughts. Freedom and fortune refers to us. We acknowledge that we have the intelligence of a human being, and that this life we have has enough conditions, good conditions, whereby we can engage in a spiritual path. If we look through our life and go, it's got all these full of problems and difficulties, that's true, but I'm also a human, and so therefore I can sort of deal with this if I know how to. But death is certain, its time is uncertain, and everything is changing around us. So if we wish to deal with these problems, I really should do it like now, as soon as you can. These problems that we have are all require causes, and they're all supported by conditions. If we know what these causes and conditions are, we can avert them or sort of interfere with them. And in that way, stop the causes of suffering. But no matter how the causes of suffering that we stop as ordinary people, who have not yet been introduced to the Dharma, we're still going to find ourselves with problems. One of the biggest problems that we can't escape is death itself. And often before we die, we're going to get sick. There's lots of problems with dying, and there's lots of problems about being sick. while we're sick, of course, we're aging. So then, of course, more problems come. Anybody knows it's above 40, you start feeling it. You sort of know, okay, it gets more difficult. Anyone who's older than they used to be will know this. Not only that, the things that used to make us happy, they don't anymore. The things that make us happy, we also find that we can lose them. And there are many phenomena that we will meet that are going to be unpleasant. This is the life we sort of find ourselves in. With all of that, of course, is the suffering that comes along with it. So we feel the suffering of ordinary, we feel mental and physical suffering. This is what we're familiar with, right? Ordinary pains, disappointments, anxieties. It's going on all the time. We're also familiar with what we call the suffering of change, where some of the things that used to bring us a great deal of pleasure now don't. They can just as easily bring us suffering. So you might think, oh, when I was younger, I really liked to drink. I had a great time drinking and partying. But if you keep it up, you can become an alcoholic and you have health issues. Lots of things come out of things you like to do that aren't all that pleasant. This is called the suffering of change. But the deepest suffering, called the all-pervasive suffering of conditionality, is sort of referring to us having a body and mind that are not under our control. And so I'm not sure, I can't remember ever thinking, oh, I'd like to be born into this world as a human being to my mother and father. I don't know whether you remember thinking that either. Perhaps you've forgotten what you even did it. But suddenly you found you were born. You came into this world, you didn't have a choice about it. And from the very moment we were entering this world, we started to age. You had no choice over that. And as you start to grow, you start to get sick. You got sick, you got well. You got sick, you got well. And then a whole lot of other difficulties came along. The difficulties of being a child, the difficulties of the first day at school, and the difficulties of going to school, and all the stuff that comes along with just being a human being growing up. Right? It's not an easy thing. It's not all what we call milk and honey. It's hard. So all the time we're looking for, like, how can I be happier? How can I have less suffering? How can I avoid the things that produce suffering for me? What can I do? So when we're thinking like that, this is like we're seeking a refuge. We're seeking some sort of protection. When I was going to school, when I first went to school, it was like a primary school, an intermediate school, and a high school all in one. It was, our parents had sort of built the school, and there was only one school in this town, so everybody went to it. So the bullying in it was immense. Right? You just got bullied all the way down. And as a kid who'd been brought up by my parents not to fight, that fighting was wrong. It's like, I'm scared at school, right? All the time. And I'm looking for protection, like how am I going to protect myself? One way is just don't go out in the playground. That worked for a little while. Then you ask your mum or dad to come and pick you up from school or take you to school. It works for a little while. So all the time I'm seeking a way of protecting myself to avoid suffering. This is the sort of same sort of thing. There's all these problems. And we go, well, what can I do? How can I protect myself from these problems? So as ordinary people who have not been introduced to the teachings of the Buddha, it's very difficult to, first of all, identify what the actual real problem is. So when I was going to places, I think, the problem is the Fijians and the Cook Islander kids, because they could fight. In other words, they're different, man, it's all the time. So I think they're the problem, right? I'm sure those kids would think the same. But from a Buddhist perspective, we're very wrong. We misidentify the sources of our problems. So we never really get rid of them. In fact, we often can say exacerbate the problem. So we're trying to look for a solution. Now, from a Buddhist perspective, life just doesn't finish at death. Life is what this life finishes, yes. And then a new life will begin, and then that one will finish and on and on and on and on until we stop the process. This is one of the problems of being an unenlightened people. We don't have control over our death process. So this life comes to an end, as it must do. So for a Buddhist perspective, our problems go along with us. And so Lama Zopa Rinpoche, the founder of our tradition, says about this. He says, after death, there is no assurance that you will not be reborn in one of the unfortunate states. But it is certain that the three jewels of refuge can protect you from their terrors. Therefore, you should take refuge very firmly, and you should never violate the precepts. So I think it's quite obvious to see, like, we've got problems here, not very good at dealing with them, we'll die. And death can be problematic, it can be very painful itself. And then you might think, oh, that's the end then. But no, before you take on a new life, an embodied life, there's problems in that passageway between, called the Bardo, the period between this life and the next life. It's also fraught with difficulties. We can't, for us, we have to imagine them, don't we, at present. Then we'll find ourselves again in a new embodied state, and it's going to be really confusing for us. And we'll be afraid. So Lama Zopa Rinpoche said that doesn't have to happen to you. You can prevent it. You can protect yourself. So when I was at school, at this place, one day a senior student took pity on me and protected me from the other bullies. So you can be assured that every day after as soon as I walked out of my class, I had the break, I was looking for that fellow. I'm going to stand real close to that guy so that other people don't hurt me. And that sort of gave me some little thing. As long as that guy was at school, I was sort of okay, I could be safe. I was protected from the terrors of all the other students. And they were terrible. And of course, I always remember this fellow. And of course, I never did anything cruel or inconsiderate to him. And I would always have great respect for him because of he's my protector. So before I go on with this next section, I'll just pause here and just ask you guys, so anything like this happen to you where you have difficulties, great difficulties, and unsure what to do? But where do you get your safety? Where do you get your help from? Most of us, if we have this medical stuff, it's doctors we go to, isn't it? If it's mental stuff, then it's like, well, I need to see a psychologist or someone who can at least listen to me. So we're always sort of searching for help, and we need help. We need help. Anything you'd like to add? Or?
Yeah, I remember as being a young parent, and we were having quite a few problems with our young teenagers. And I started reading Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective Families. So I was just desperate for strategies to do something about that. Like totally desperate. So that's what's there. I was just looking for a companion.
Yeah, excellent. And that's right, isn't it? That's what we naturally do. What am I going to do? When we take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, they call the 3 jewels, or the 3 rare and sublime precious ones. This is what we do. We've got a problem, and we say, okay, if I'm going in this direction, that should help. So, two phenomena are basically needed when we seek refuge. What is called a wise concern for suffering is often abbreviated as fear. But as you know, people don't like to hear the word fear, right? As soon as they hear it, they get scared. It's like a thing of fear is like a bad thing. But not necessarily. Fear can be a very useful thing, very useful phenomenon. If the fears are unwarranted, yeah, it's not good, is it? You don't need to be afraid, and yet you are. So that's not really good. But if you've got a good reason to be afraid, you should be afraid, for sure. And then you need to go to ameliorate your fear or put your fears down because you know there's something you can do. Now, like for me, I'll be looking for Maury Sutton. Yeah, I am scared at school, but I look for him because I know, okay, I know Maury can protect me. I just got to find him. So in the Dharma, we know there are certain things that are dangerous to us. Major dangerous, of course, the way we think, how bad thoughts, our thoughts are leaders, how bad, so many problems, right? That's the real thing, in the habitual way we think. That's what we need to fear, because that can produce terrible outcomes for us. And then be convinced, but still, there's things I can do about this. This is Mel said, right? So just like him, I was going to the bookshop, looking in the self-help section. It's the first thing I normally do, or I go online and write the question, what can I do? Right? And there's an answer for it. You go, good. Now I'm not so afraid. Now I've got something I can do. Yeah. So, His Holiness has often talked about this, and he talks about in two different ways you can do it. One is the way that they call intelligent or intelligent. For those of high intelligence, that's what they call it. They talk about it. So those people of high intelligence, they identify the problem. They look at what causes the problem. Then they find out, can I do something about those causes? And if there is, then they do something about it. That's sort of what they mean by an intelligent take on things. So what we've got to do here, that means, if we're looking for the causes of our own problems, we end up with two major sources. Can anybody remember what one of them is? What's a major source of suffering for us? In fact, all human beings. Our afflictions. Yeah, so our afflictions, these are things like hatred, doubt, jealousy. We're familiar with these things, or lack of faith. There's basically mental states that we know cause our suffering. And they all come out, they're all rooted in what we call our ignorance, or a misapprehension of how things exist. We misapprehend, and in our misapprehension, we're given the wrong way of existing. We think we're right. If it's not just not knowing, it's wrongly knowing something. You wrongly believe something. This is the major cause of our suffering. Along with that will come in our behaviours. And what we find is that if any sort of behaviour works semi-well, we repeat it. So we've got what they call habitual behaviour. So here we have what they call karma and delusion. These are the two major sources of our problems, right? So an intelligent refugee, so the person would look at that and go, okay, can ignorance, can this not knowing or wrongly knowing something, can that be put to an end? Can I stop doing that, in other words? And from perspective, yeah, of course you can. If you misapprehend something and you know you're misapprehending it, you can look back and go, oh, I was wrong. We can all do that. We've all done that, haven't we? Been wrong about something, thought we were right. With a bit more information, we discover we were wrong and we change our mind. When you do that, then the behaviours that used to go along with that mind also stop. So that's what I'm saying would be an intelligent approach to this. If you do it that way, then you have this conviction that your own suffering can be brought to an end. Right? Then your refuge is very easy. But for me, it's just like, I know Maury's a big bloke, and people are scared of him. I said, when they look at him, they leave everybody alone. But we know. So here to this also by being an intelligent refugee, you know you can put an end to your suffering. And so you decide to, that's what you're going to do. Now, there's another way of taking refuge where there's more causes. And this is where we talk about the 3 reasons for seeking refuge for a Mahayana person. This is like the 3 scopes. So we begin with a wise concern about future suffering, present and future suffering. We find we can trust this object of refuge or objects of refuge. The third one, the new one, is compassion. So often I said before, it's called fear, but it's like it's a wise fear. It's fear that analyzes the situation and says, I should be scared. It's reasonable to be afraid here. And so I am. My fear is going to drive me to seek a solution. And this, when we find, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, these 3 rare sublime ones, the 3 jewels, can actually help me put an end to suffering. Okay, just like me seeing Maury, I'm confident this guy can look after me. I'm confident these teachers and teachings can help me. And of course, at this level, the compassion is primarily towards ourselves. That's an expression of compassion. If you care enough about your future, you don't want to be hurt, it's self-directed compassion. One of the other terms for that in Buddhism is called renunciation, or a wish to definitely emerge from your own mess that you've made. To renounce the causes of suffering. So now, okay, I know what they are. There is ignorance that drives all these afflictions, and then there's the behaviours, the automatic behaviours that follow. So I need to stop that. So with the compassion, like I said, so one of the first, we do this self-directed compassion directed towards oneself, called renunciation or wish to definitely emerge. When we see that others are just like ourselves, then we go, no, this is really compassion. Compassion to the other. You can see I've got 3 types, 3 types and 3 types here. So with the confident trust, they often just call this faith. Faith is another, but faith is made up of 3 levels. And so one of them is what they call like clear faith. And clear faith is when it's something, you sort of like you have confidence, it's like an upliftedness. It's confidence. It's sort of like, if you're in a room and suppose the His Holiness the Dalai Lama was there, or somebody you really respected, and you heard somebody ask about a problem, and then you heard the answer, and you thought, wow, what a great answer that is. Right? So you feel uplifted. That's the first level of faith. Then they have sort of like wishing faith. So that's when we sort of see the qualities that this person might have had, these really good qualities that helped, and other thing that I wish I had qualities like that. You know, if you see someone who's compassionate, wise, you go, wow, I love to be as wise as they are. And the last is this what they call confidence, confident faith. So I just written up as confidence at the top. And this is just like this is the faith where you've looked at a problem, you've dissected it, broken it down apart into it can be solved. So this is what they call confident faith. So nowhere in there is there blind faith. It's always elements of reasoning or thinking in it. When it comes to the compassion, there are two compassions of three types. One is just directed towards ordinary beings, including yourself and the suffering. Or your cat, your dog, any being that you can see, obviously suffering. That's the first level, sentient beings. The second is called compassion extended towards those sentient beings who are afflicted by phenomena other than themselves. So that, of course, means karma and delusion. When you realize that all people who are not enlightened are afflicted with karma and delusion, there's compassion. The last is called non-referential. Non-referential. What's it called in the non-dual, non-referential and non-dual compassion. This is just sort of for everything and everybody that has no control. So what, in terms of what it means by non-referential is that there's no reference, none of these beings who are experiencing the suffering exist objectively. You don't see them having an objective existence because they don't have that. So there's no reference to inherent existence here. The other thing you realize after a while, you really analyze things, you realize that you, the thinker, and the thought, they're not two separate things. You can't find yourself separate from the thoughts you have. So you're not your thoughts. We'll make that clear, you're not your thoughts. But you don't find a thinker separate from their thoughts. In fact, if you look for your thoughts, you don't be able to find them. You're quite welcome to. You do have them, it's just not in this dualistic way. So they call it non-dual. Your compassion is non-dual. It's not separate from you. It's not separate from the beings you have compassion towards. So another quote, written by a great logician called Dignaga. You can see here it says, adrift in the bottomless ocean of cyclic existence, being devoured by the powerful monsters of attachment, hatred, and the other passions. To whom should I turn for refuge? So you can see it's cyclic existence, meaning these lives that we have, which are not under our control, or under the control of delusion and karma. You can't find the first moment of when that began. It's why I call it bottomless. There's no beginning of it. And within that type of environment, we have the afflictions. So there's attachment, hatred, desire, all the different passions, the doubts that we have, the anxieties, all this sort of stuff. These are sort of like the monsters that consume us from the inside out. Yeah, so I was saying to you before, when I was a kid growing up, I think it was the Fijians and the Cook Islands that you really had to look out, right, when you walked around the streets. You do not want to see a group of those guys approaching you, as you know. It's on, right? If they see you, they're going to chase you. So, and I would think, oh, it's them. If I just see a little Cook Island boy walking along the street, I better look out, there's his family be around somewhere. And in fact, of course, it's not, is it? When you look at it, you go, no, it's probably his fear. His fear is the thing that's driving him to hurt me and hurt others. So it's the fear that really needs to be tackled here, not this little boy. So this is, so to whom should I turn for refuge? So who will be our Mori in the world? And of course, the suggestion that it's going to be made, of course, is, of course, it's going to be the Buddha, his medicine called the Dharma, which are the teachings, and the community, the nurses called the Sangha. So again, this is very much like problems we might find that we could face, in fact, this week. But I'm already finding, as I'm talking about now, in this like hot flushes going up to my head. I know I'm losing my voice. I figure, right, probably by the end of the week, maybe Wednesday, I'll probably be up and well again. So what do you think I should do? You think I should leave it alone or get some help? Do nothing or get help?
See a doctor.
Go and see the doctor. So here, the doctor, this is Buddha. I've got a problem. This is what I've proved at the moment. I go and see an external doctor. If we find ourselves with internal problems, fears, doubts, all sorts of things like this, we also need someone to help us. Now we try and work with it, we're not good at it. We need external help. That external person to help us called the Buddha. But now there was a historical Buddha, of course he's passed away. So remember the name Buddha has different meanings. One of the ones we might be familiar with is what they call, when they first met the Buddha on the road, they described it to what, my gosh, who are you? What are you? Are you a god? Are you a royal figure or something? So the person who is actually called the Buddha basically responds saying, I am the Buddha. I am a Buddha, which one of the ways you can take it to me is I'm someone who's woken up. The Tibetan called Buddha Sangye, and he would have said, so I'm Sangye, I'm Sangye. And so what would that mean? It says, well, I'm somebody who's overcome the sources of all their problems. I don't have the problems that you guys do anymore. So not only do I not have them, I've developed all my good qualities. So it's abandonment and fully flourishing. So he's just following me going, so how? What happened to him? And he said, I discovered this Dharma. I discovered the means to put an end to all those causes of suffering and karma, and I applied it. So of course, once he'd done that, there's like, so what am I going to do with this knowledge? And he thought people wouldn't understand it. He said, it was wonderful, but how to impart it? And he thought people wouldn't understand what I've got to say, so I think I'll just be quiet. The story goes that he was sort of told that no, there are people in this world who will understand what you're talking about. In fact, the five other people that you used to practice with, they'd be smart enough, they would understand. And first of all, he doesn't go searching for people, he finds his five compatriots, he explains to them his Dharma. If you've read that story about what happens, like his compatriots have all thought he failed, right? He left them. And they're still practicing. And when they see an approach, they'll go, oh, there's the fellow who gave up. And so let's pretend that we don't see him. But as he approached them, he was so obviously different, they had to pay attention. And so he says, well, gosh, like, what's happened? And he says, I have discovered a Dharma, a sublime, blah, blah, blah. And if you read that, it's like, wow, what's he talking about? So then he explains to them his truth, what he discovered. And he does it 3 times, and as he explains it, one person gets it. Goes, oh my gosh, I got it. No. Then he explains it again. I think next 3 people sort of get it. Or just 2 or 2. But he explains again, finally the last person. They all understand. how to put an end to suffering. But in fact, somebody actually enter the path straight away, right there, understand him so clearly, they sort of realise what he's realised. So now you have a group of people who all have the same sort of understanding, and his instruction is like share the knowledge. You know, all beings are we're just like us. We're all looking for solutions. I found the solution. It works for me, it works for you. Go and share it. And so here we have this, like this analogy that Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha are often seen as the doctor, the nurses, and the medicine. And so when I go off to see them to the doctor's appointment this week, probably they're going to prescribe to me some sort of medicine that I'll need to go and take. So again, you know, just getting a prescription and doing nothing with it won't help you. Just like, you know, the idea is, of course, take the medicine and see what happens. And check it. Often, of course, the doctors will say, come back, won't they? And so you go back and you have another chat and see how it's going. It's the same when we decide to take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. We need to find a reliable doctor. This is not an easy thing to do, as everybody knows. Some doctors get on really well, others don't suit you, even though they all know medicine. So you need to find a doctor who's suitable for us. The Dharma is basically always the same, but it's presented to you in different ways and at different times. And you want to have other people who are also interested in your well-being. Like, you know, so we've got, you know, there's you guys here and me here, and they're often here. And we're interested in one another to some sort of degree that we can talk to one another about what's going on. And so you know that, you know, when we have our lunches together, then I say often to you, don't just talk about the food. You know, well, we have to talk about something meaningful, like Dharma, like you have a problem. What have you been doing? You know, be able to get some help. How to work out. So we have our, you know, our unordained Sangha, our ordinary people, but then we have the actual Sangha. They're the people usually in the robes. But the real Sangha that we're really looking for is people who have the same realizations as the Buddha. And that's the actual refuge. You need people who not only can talk the talk, but they walk it. They have taken the medicine themselves. They're people who are well on the way to healing, and they can help us. Okay, is there anything? So I'll just pause here again and just see if there's anything we'd like to ask a question about before we go into our first meditation. Am I speaking to you clearly enough and simply enough so that you understand what I'm saying? Because if not, please just raise your hand and say something. First of all, after death, there was no assurance that you will not be reborn in one of the unfortunate states. Okay. So this is because, so what he's sort of saying here, Angela, is if you're not reborn in one of the unfortunate states, you won't experience the terrors of being there. Yeah, okay. That's what it's getting at. Okay. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah, but if you are reborn there, you're going to be terrified. For sure. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So as another analogy, I think you already got it, right? So you know, with there used to be a program to stop, you know, juveniles getting themselves into trouble. What they would do, they would take the juvenile to a prison and show you, this is what happens to you if you keep doing what you're doing, right? And the idea is to terrify them, isn't it? Yeah, right? So you go, oh my God, I'm so damn scared, I don't ever want to go there. And they know, the only reason you go here is for doing these three things you've been doing, isn't it? They know, okay, if I don't do those silly things, I won't go there and I won't be scared. So I think it's like saying to them, okay, what are the three things we can do to find ourselves in these lower realms? And I said, well, keep hurting people, keep doing all these unskillful things will bring more pain to yourself and others in the world. That's the causes for you to find yourself in these unfortunate places. But of course, if you don't do that, you can't be there. You don't have the causes. So the Dharma stops you from engaging in all those causes. It shows you what suffering is, how you create it, how you can stop it. And if you do all that, then you can't experience the effect. Okay, so let's do our first meditation. Again, just get comfortable in the seat. Like I said, your back should be straight, shoulders relaxed, eyes open or closed, whatever suits you. And let your body breathe itself. And when your body is breathing itself, as it always is, so just gently bring your awareness to the natural rhythm that entails. And with this meditation, we're trying to understand that powerful motivation will turn our mind towards a sense of lasting peace. So a genuine desire for refuge arises from two essential causes. You recollect what those causes are. The first cause is a wise recognition of the difficulties we face. And secondly, having confident trust in a reliable solution. A wise recognition of the difficulties we face. And the second cause is a confident trust in a reliable solution. Imagine being sick and wanting to return to good health. What would you do? So we would rely upon a good physician, effective medicine, and a caring nurse. In our inner life, these three sources are called Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Now, Buddha is the deep innate intelligence we already have. Dharma is finding these solutions that have us abandoning the causes of suffering. And Sangha is all the good qualities of mind that we have. So you've got to apply this inner model, an inner doctor, inner medicine, and inner nurses. Just think about how you might apply this the model of a doctor, medicine, and nurse to your own daily life, the situations you face. So all of us, I think, have sought help before. And when we were seeking help, we wanted a complete system of care. So we look back over our own lives, we will see that just knowing the solution isn't enough. We also need trust in the source of the advice, and we want to have support in applying it. So see if you can, from today onwards, gently cultivate these three causes. You want a clear-eyed view of your challenges, faith in a reliable path, and compassion for all who share in this journey. By doing so, you can build a reliable inner place of safety. This place should always be stable, peaceful, and kind. Breathe in through nostrils. Exhale. Let your eyes flutter open. Okay, so before, when we started off with the four thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma, or the four thoughts that turn the mind to the refuge, a safe place. Once we've taken refuge, when we suppose that this will make sense to you, go, okay, I want to be a Buddhist. You sort of go through a little ceremony and you become one. You place your reliance upon Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and then you decide, okay, I want to practice. Like, how do I practice refuge within a meditation session, for instance? So this is what this next session is about. So when we are doing any sort of practice, like you guys, like the practice, you could say is right now for you guys, it's listening and reflecting, and then we do a little bit of meditation. So for me, it's to present the teachings. And before presenting the teachings, Refuge or one of the other volunteers or myself would have turned these lights on. We make offerings. We make sure the offering is in the water. We present something. And then and after a little bit of this and that, we take refuge. So for us, when we sat down, everyone adjusted their posture. We set forward a motivation for practicing, and then we did our little preamble, and then we actually took refuge strictly. So we didn't just hop and sit down, right, taking refuge and waiting there. So before we engage in the actual meditations and the contemplations, reading and study, we engage what we call preliminary practices. We set the place up, in other words. And what normally happens is first of all, you begin to clean the space you're about to meditate in. So here we'll be cleaning the meditation space itself. It has been cleaned. It's cleaned it's cleaned. And also it's cleaned. And then what normally happens is you make the offerings. So for us here, you guys are all making the offering of practice. You're offering your ability to listen, you're offering your time. There's lots of offerings you're making already. You might not really be aware of them, but you are. Yeah. Then you say, please adjust your posture now. Try to get in the correct position for listening and reflecting and meditating. You're able to do that. And it's only then that we take refuge and generate a mind of enlightenment. Remember when I said we took refuge, there's two ways of doing it. One was this a concern for future suffering. It's based on a sort of thinking, sometimes called fear. And then you go, okay, I know I can overcome that. So here I go, they're my two things. But here in a Buddhist center that's based around the Mahayana, you need to take the next step and also generate compassion. So it's not just fear and faith. It's fear, faith, compassion. Then from that, we often go on. We did the 7 limb practice. So okay, now relax, bring it to a place of feel for accumulated merit. This is reverently or prostrate, the body speaks in mind and make offerings by actual and imagined. and so forth. We do that before the class begins. You offer the mandala, and you make this requests. So basically, we did all that today within sort of 15 minutes. So every time when you go to take refuge, have a look around the space you're about to do it in. Because sometimes it's if you've actually got a space at home and you want to meditate there, then try to make sure it's clean. Just the act of cleaning, as you'll see shortly, can make a huge difference. And tidy up. I think it should be a place you'd like to go to. So I don't know if you guys like a mess or not. I don't really like it. I don't want to sit in a mess and do something. I like it looking good. So you make it look good. That's how you want to be there. Yeah, when you're there, try to make some sort of offering. Now remember, it's not such a making offerings to anything external. And so offerings, when you make offerings, what do you think is the purpose of making an offering? There's a few of them.
Could it be setting your intent?
Yeah, it complements your intent. Yeah. Anyone else?
Practicing generosity.
Yeah, it's an act of generosity when you make an offering. So that's what we're trying to do is overcome our sense of stinginess. And Miffy's got a great term, she calls it poverty mentality. The fact that you don't have enough, right? So this is what you've got to sit here and meditate. Give me. You've got plenty. Everything's already in place. You just haven't recognised it. So you're so wealthy, in fact, you can give a little.
Sense of connection.
Yeah, there's a sense of connection. Yeah. And one of the major connections you're making is with your future life. One of the major connections you're going to make when you make an offering is with the wealth that you will have in your future life. I mean, you might not be aware of it, but every effect that you desire requires a cause. So you ask, what's the point of making an offering? I mean, sometimes it's not so bad to be called, guess on the call, hard-headed. Just think, I don't know, I'm going to ask a question about everything. Like, why do I make an offering of a flower? Why of light? You know, you're quite entitled to ask these questions. It's best that you know what you're doing. And so know what you're doing and why you're doing it. You know, we'll come to. So cleaning has got these great purposes, which I'll introduce you to now. So in the stages of the path to enlightenment, there's a section there called how to listen to the teachings. And they give a story about this guy called Chuda Panthaka. So it's an interesting story about these two boys. This woman was not able to give birth to a child for a long, long time. But finally she was able to. And the priest had said, when you give birth to your child, take him down to the highway where there's this crossing of the highway and wait there. And when you see the Sangha or the holy people pass by, ask for a blessing for your child. And so she did that. And this fellow, her son got to be a scholar, really intelligent and so forth. But as he's grown up, she becomes pregnant again and sees the Lama and says, wait again, make sure you take the child down to the major crossroads so you can meet holy people and the child will be blessed. So this time the mother gave the child one of the maids and gave the instruction, go down to the major highway. There was quite a long walk and this maid didn't do it. She went part of the way, waited at a smaller crossroad, waiting for someone to come by. Of course, nobody came by. So she had to take the child back home. And for whatever reason, this child was nowhere near as bright as the first one. So they're both growing up. The older one joins the Sangha of the Buddha, and the younger one wants to do the same. but there's a vast difference in their intellectual capacities. One's very slow, dull, one is very bright. So the older brother decides, I'll teach my younger brother. He does the best he can, but it's not much use. In fact, this fellow, he said that by the time if you had a sentence or anything with more than 3 words in, by the time he got to the 3rd word, the first 2 words are forgotten. It's like, very hard. Now you might think that they're unbelievable, but I had an experience like this myself. Up at 3I one day, first time I did a big study, and my head was so thick and dull. I was the same. I needed to memorize definitions. I kid you not, by the 4th word come up, I had lost the 3 words before. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And I thought I've got to try harder. But trying harder does not work. That was not the solution. In fact, a guest saw my room, the light was on at like 3 in the morning every morning. This is what people do down there. So one of the Sangha members comes and gives us the light, what are you doing? So I'm trying to memorize all the stuff, and they said, stop. This is really good advice because I could have done myself a mental injury here. That's what I found the great solution to is doing prostrations, which is so, it's not obvious that answer, but that was the answer, and then it all came back and it was better. So this guy, he has to clean up. Oh, sorry, his brother tries to help, can't help. So I can see that the Buddha turns up, I'll help him. So first of all, he gives this monk the job of looking after the monk's sandals. Like just put up sandals orderly and clean them. Does that for quite some time, he's able to do it. Okay, so nothing to memorize, just clean the sandals. Then he goes and says, I want you to clean the place where all the monks meditate every day. When they come out, you sweep out the dust. And he tells me, whenever you sweep, this is the instruction. Sweep the dust, remove the stains. You see, when you read this, it's got different instructions here. The idea is to try and apply it yourself. So you want to make it as brief as possible, sweep it, forget. I just got 3 words, right? Sweep the dust, remove stains. Sweep dust, remove stains. Make it 2, better. So he does this on and on, and he starts thinking, wonder what he means by the dust. I wonder what he means by the stains, because I'm doing this every day. And there's every day I come in here for this dust in here. And every day, often there's the stains. So that's the outer things, the things that do, what does it mean? I wonder, does it mean literally what it says, or might it have some other meaning? You always start thinking about that. And through this thinking, and I guess it would be a lot more as well, but he becomes like a knowledgeable person. And this is not apparent to anybody. Of course, it's really just thinking, like, what's it mean? What's it mean? And the Buddha knows this fellow's got smarter. In fact, he's very smart. And still everybody thinks because he's sweeping, he's a nobody. He doesn't know anything. So then the Buddha tells the nuns, this fellow's going to give you a discourse. Well, they're really disgusted. The idiot is going to teach us. We're smart. This guy's not. Anyway, so they try to make it really difficult for him. He overcomes all the difficulties. And he gives, I think it's a 3-day talk on ethics. A 3-day talk on the major topic being ethics. Ethics. Yeah. And he's seen as one of the great practitioners of the Buddha, this fellow. But as he physically sweeps the temple, he begins to contemplate, and he recognizes, of course, what he's really talking about is the inner dust, the inner stains. That's what I've got to get rid of. So these practices are people are still doing this today. Right? This guy got this amazing result out of just cleaning and thinking this line and thinking about it. So often I say that when we do our sweeping cleaning out, we should think the same. Think out dust, out stains. Go at what dust? What is the dust? The dust of the afflictions. What are the stains? They're the copying obscurations. That's why it appears intrinsic to me. They're the two things I need to remove. Not so much outer dust and outer stains, but inner dust, inner stains. Afflictive emotions are the inner dust, the cognitive are the inner stain. So, very simple practice, but very sincerely carried out by this person. So if you can find something you can do something like that, make it simple and sincere, that's how you purify your mind. You must, sincerity is the main thing. Simplicity helps. So often, so make it as simple as you possibly can, so you can't forget it. It's easy to do. So we don't need to be scholars to practice. Simple, mindful activities in our daily lives, like washing dishes, walking or cleaning, can become powerful meditations.
Oh, yes. I couldn't find a broom.
Yeah.
And it was like, just the opposite to that. And I think maybe that's the same as trying too hard. Because the dust went all over me. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just trying to get it out of the way. I found the stupid at the top of the stairs. It found the institute. But I thought it was the least mindful thing I've ever done. Yeah.
Well, at least you know that.
Yeah, but you weren't trying too hard. I think that's, your example of that.
Yeah, trying too hard doesn't work. No. Not trying hard enough doesn't work. We've got to try and find some sort of like that middle way, what they call the middle way. The other answer, when I sit out the chairs, I haven't set this one out, but when I do, you could think, oh, I've got to set the chairs up. That's what you do. So the intention there is to what? Set the chairs up, is it? Yeah, why am I sitting out? Why am I sitting out chairs? Oh, because we're going to have a class shortly. That's what I'm doing. But again, something as simple as that, you can go, actually, I am preparing the thrones of enlightenment for all the people that I'm going to meet in my near future. And so you put it out. But really make something that's really quite ordinary and normal suddenly feel great. You just again, just a changing of mind. And I said, so we clean and then we make an offering. It's often to be generous with your offerings. You're not giving them to something that appear to giving them to an external object and so forth, but really you're giving them to your own future. So when you make an offering, it's to oppose stinginess. But we're all stingy. Just find you just got to go up the level and go, so where do you go? I'm not giving that. There's your level. So you're opposing your own poverty mentality. And finally, to oppose stinginess, to overcome greed, and lastly, to have resources in future lives. So like the fact that we're all wearing clothing, have enough money in our pocket, here, some of us even have cars, like these are all the resources that we can pull upon. They say this all comes about because of your generosity at any time. Like anything you get, it's because you've given. So when you don't give, you don't get. I remember a time when I was in this place, I walked out and I was thinking, why don't I get any mail? It's because I don't write. If you don't write to people, you can't expect them to write to you. It's the same thing, right? No give, no get. When we sit down to meditate, you ask us, well, why, we've taken a refuge and we're about to practice that type of meditation. We're going to become familiar with something. What is it that we need to become familiar with when we meditate? So there's a number of things. So this written 4 down here. So you want to remove what they call the 2 obscurations. These are afflictive obscurations and cognitive obscurations. Cognitive obscurations, cognitive. They're much harder, but they're possible too. We can certainly work at removing our afflictions. Why do we want to do that? Because the afflictions stop us being happy. They actually create all our problems, our suffering. So we want to remove the causes of suffering, and we want to generate their opposites, compassion and wisdom. Again, like why? To support the mind of enlightenment. Why? To achieve what we call Buddhahood. Now, Buddhahood, another way of describing Buddhahood is called the achievement of the 2 purposes is another way of defining Buddhahood, the achievement of the 2 purposes. You ask, what are the 2 purposes? You go, your own and others. What's your own purpose? To overcome my own sources of suffering. Now, to wake up. I need the wisdom to wake up. Why? To help someone else wake up. So that's the other purpose. The purpose is to help others. We're completing
your realization.
Well, then we could, on the terms of the generating compassion and wisdom, and from then on, be all that would be fit into the rest of the next 2 categories as well. And so Peet Rinpoche said when he gave them, we're at a refuge ceremony. Now, so you go through all this material and you think, okay, seems to make sense to me. I think I'd like to take up, the Dharma. So it's okay. You really want to commit to that, you can engage in a refuge ceremony. And Peet Rinpoche, so you become a refugee, Buddhist follower of Dharma, and now the work begins. So it's not the end when you take refuge out of Buddhist, it's perfect. Well, now you have to start working. And so how do we do this? Well, we prepare ourselves basically through breath work. We start off just like, we begin all the time, we breathe it, we watch the breath, we calm down. You get a nice, calm, stable platform in your mind, in your body, you're at ease, you're relaxed, and you go, okay, now I can actually begin. And this thing we're going to do shortly, the final thing we're going to do, is meditating on what they call 9 rounds of breathing, 9 rounds of breathing. Now, I put this one up with the monk blocking the nose because when you begin, that's one way you can do it. If you're really focusing on the physical aspects of it, you can just block one nostril and block this one. Block it. You just do 3 times in and out, then you go 3 times in this one now. So it's really simple. It's nice. Block, igniter, breathe in, breathe out. That would be the 9. And this is, of course, when you're really focusing on the physical aspects of it. But the fact you don't need to, you could, but it's not necessary. Because this type of meditation is when we're cleansing impure motivations with our imagination. So okay, so when you start off to meditate, as a Buddhist who's taken refuge, your goal is to achieve these 2 purposes. Your own, to help others achieve theirs. you've got to go, you've got, in other words, you say, I intend to remove my afflictive obscurations and my cognitive obscurations. I do both of those, I'm a body. I can help others effortlessly and spontaneously. So how do you just bring that with the motivation? The motivation is probably the most important thing you'll ever do at any practice you do, is the motivation. So, so we say things like, I want to become a Buddha, I do. And I'm sure we could all say this with some sort of conviction. But then you find you get in your own way. Actually, you do the things that don't lead to Buddhahood. So what there's some sayings that motivation is not really pure. It's still got delusion within it. So we start off by saying, the best way you can, you've got to set your purpose here, in other words. So I say something, but if you can find something you can say to yourself that's really meaningful, say it. Best motivation you'll ever probably find is the one of your own. So you will say it, and when it's done, just to make sure it's really pure, you engage in this meditation. So if there's any vestiges of ignorance, attachment, or aversion to do with this motivation that you have, now you imagine breathing in all the white light, the power of all the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, and on the exhalation, you breathe out anything that might get in the way of that motivation. It's often seen as black, sometimes it's black, sometimes it's red, sometimes it's grey. You start off, make it easy for yourself. Just go on, breathing in white light, breathing out black light for 3 things. Now I'm breathing in white light 3 ways, this nostril, throughout that way. Now I'm breathing in white light together 3 times. I'm exhaling it 3 times. Now, so this meditation, this way of breathing and meditating, is not so much on the physical thing of just going. That would be the physical thing. This is more about the imagination, using your imagination to cleanse your original motivation. So now you breathe, okay, if there's anything wrong with that motivation, I said, I'm going to clean it up now. So breathing in all the wisdom, compassion, and power of all the enlightened beings, breathe it in. Goes to work on the subtle energy system, and if there's any gunk at all, just imagine that vanishing. Do it again. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Do you have any questions about this? Give it a go. Again, you're comfortable in the seat. Now think about why you want to be like, why do you want to take up the Dharma? Why are you a religious person? What's your intention? What are you trying to do here? So think about that. And then say, yes, I want to be a religious person, a person who practices Dharma, a person who wants to overcome their afflictions and become the very best person they can possibly be to help others do the same. This is why I've come to study. This is why I meditate. Now, if there's anything wrong within that aspiration that I'm not even aware of, I'm going to call upon the help of all enlightened beings. I'm going to breathe in their energy as white light. It's going to go up through into my left nostril. And fill me up with the purity and power of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. And when I exhale, anything negative is going to vanish in space. So just do this 3 times. Breathing in the white light, exhaling the black light. Now move to the opposite side. They're going to inhale white light through the right nostril, and all the anger and hatred is exhaled through the left. Now through both nostrils, breathing in the white, you exhale the dark, and you see all the confusion, ignorance, all the not knowing and the mistakes have been breathed out. When you've done these 9 rounds, they just breathe normally and naturally, in a sort of a non-thinking state, just relaxed completely, breathing normally and naturally. And you sort of think the body, speech, and mind are clean and clear and ready to go. And if your eyes are closed, just let them flutter open. Bring your attention back to the room. We've come to this, our class is the end of this first class. So, you know the causes of refuge, right? So what are the causes of refuge? Sometimes there's 2, sometimes there's 3. Somebody tell me, what are the causes of refuge?
Recognition for
So,
suffering.
yeah, right. Why is recognition of something, of suffering, right? It's dangerous, it's bad. It should be fearful to you, be fearful. So it's not just like this life suffering, they're talking about what can happen when you die. That we really don't know, do we? So that's something to be a bit afraid of when you don't know. You don't know what can happen. And then the next cause you need is faith. Faith. Yeah. And the last is compassion. That's for ourselves and for others. This is why we take refuge. We can prepare for our refuge by looking at the 4 thoughts that turn the mind to enlightenment, or in a sense of like sitting down properly, making an offering, cleaning your space, making an offering, sitting down properly on your chair. And we have the miracle analogy. So who's Buddha in this analogy? Who's the doctor? Excellent. The medicine is the Dharma, excellent, and our assistants and helpers, those who accompany us, are called the Sangha. It's what we are: doctors, medicine, nurse. Good. And like a simple preliminary practice is like I said, just line around breathing. You set your motivation verbally or mentally to yourself, so this is why I'm doing it. And then you just engage with 3 rounds, 3 rounds, 3 rounds. Okay, there are some notes up on the website. So there's 2 major things you go to. One's called FPMT notes, the other's called LTC notes. So if you look at pages 5 to 9 in the FPMT notes, there's material there, and pages 2 to 10 in the LTC notes. And next week we're going to be looking at what they call the scope of refuge, or the capacity of the refuge seeker. That's what I mean. Okay, so I just to say thank you, and I hope something has come across you that was useful and meaningful. So we've created what's called merit. So you guys have been sitting there, listening, thinking, reflecting, meditating. So that sort of energy that you put into this, we want to send it along its course to where you're directed. So let's do that now by saying, Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, they are quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha. They lead all living beings without exception into their enlightened state. May the supreme jewel, bodhicitta, not yet born, arise together. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. And as long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, may I too remain to the stars and stars of the world. From Holiness is long life. Wish granting, wish fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world. To the incomparably kind, Tenzin Yatso, I beseech. May all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. And finally, a prayer for recognition of what this is, discovery, and so forth. In holding and spreading the movement's precious and complete teachings through exploration and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable and open to you and make this the place. Okay, everyone. Thank you very much. See you up there. Have some